Welcome to the second safety module for Chem 204, Laboratory Safety. In this module, we will discuss many important aspects that will help ensure that you're working safely throughout your lab sessions. This includes a list of things that you should do at the beginning of a lab session, as well as how to work during your lab session to maintain a clean and safe workspace. We'll also go over several of the laboratory safety features, as well as the processes for disposing of chemical waste in a safe manner. We'll then discuss items that you should do at the end of your lab session, as well as highlight the differences between chemical and chemical-free zones. At the beginning of a lab session, make sure you arrive with a completed pre-lab before your lab is scheduled to begin. The pre-labs will help ensure that you're familiar with the experiment, and it also outlines all chemical and physical safety hazards associated with the procedure. Please arrive on time and dress appropriately for your lab session. This includes making sure that you have no exposed skin from the torso down, and if you do have any skin showing, please head down to the 204 stockroom to purchase disposable covers so that your skin is no longer showing. Before you head in, don't forget to grab a lab coat from one of the metal racks and a pair of safety goggles from one of the white cabinets in the hallway. Both of these have color-coded labels that are specific to your lab room. When you walk into the lab, please remember to set your belongings in the wooden cubbies and not on the laboratory benches. These benches are always considered to be contaminated from previous week's experiments, so you don't want any of that contamination getting on your belongings when you take them home. In addition, never set your belongings on the laboratory floors. These surfaces are even more contaminated than the bench tops, and they're sure to contain little bits of broken glass as well. It also introduces a major trip hazard for people that are walking around throughout the experiment. In an attempt to minimize chemical exposure, there are many items that are actually prohibited from lab altogether. Eating, drinking, and chewing gum aren't allowed in the lab during your session, and you should store food and drinks inside of your belongings in the wooden cubbies. If you have a medical condition, please feel free to use the tables in the hallway to store food throughout the session, and don't forget that there are water fountains in the hallway as well. Secondly, the use of all electronics is banned throughout your lab session. This includes cell phones, iPods, laptops, and tablets because they can introduce the risk of chemical contamination if you happen to use them while you're wearing gloves. They can also provide many distractions from your experimental procedure, which is dangerous to both you and to those working around you. Lastly, the use of headphones is also banned during your lab session. These could mask any instructions given to you from your TA or even hinder your alertness during an emergency situation that may arise. However, some of your TAs may choose to play music for you, and as long as it's at a reasonable volume, that's okay. Let's talk about several safety-related items that are found in each lab. Each lab has one safety shower located on one side of the room, as well as two eye washes, one located directly underneath the safety shower and another located in the back of the room. Specifically, this one is referred to as a drench hose, and it's located near one of the sinks. For more information on these items, see Safety Module 4. There are also two fire extinguishers located in each lab, located by each of the doors. Additionally, there is a first aid kit located in the cabinets behind the whiteboards and a spill kit located underneath one of the hoods. These items are also discussed in more detail in Safety Module 4. During your lab session, it's very important that you maintain a clean and clear workspace. Clean workspaces help minimize the risk of most lab accidents. Be sure that you label all of your glassware with the Sharpies located in your drawer, and leave any of your unused glassware in the drawer as well. Cluttered lab benches are hazardous. When there's too much going on in your workspace, it can lead to broken glassware, chemical spills, incorrect chemical additions, and missing or mislabeled chemicals. Lastly, dirty lab benches directly increase the amount of chemical contamination on the surfaces in the lab. Throughout the semester, several experiments will require the use of chemical fume hoods. Fume hoods protect the user against many different chemical and physical hazards, including gaseous chemicals, chemical vapors, chemical powders, and spills, fires, or explosions. Chemical fume hoods offer protection by generating a constant flow of air from the opening of the sash to the back of the hood. Raise the sash to work in the hood, but try to keep it as low as comfortably possible. This is the part that will shield you from the hazards inside of the hood, and it should be raised no higher than 18 inches. If the sash is raised higher than 18 inches, it will not be able to achieve sufficient airflow. To help maintain sufficient airflow, place all items at least 6 inches behind the sash and raise all large equipment by at least 2 inches. Also, keep hoods free of clutter and never use them for any type of general storage. It is important that you're working safely at all times when you are inside of a fume hood, so don't use the hood if the alarm is beeping, and never place your head inside of the hood. Don't use fume hoods to evaporate liquids for disposal, and keep the sash as low as possible and closed when it is not in use. During the semester, most experiments will generate some sort of chemical waste, and it's very important that you understand where to place the waste. All liquid chemical waste needs to be placed in the labeled plastic carboys inside one of the fume hoods. One common mistake amongst new lab students is the failure to remove the cap that's on top of this waste container. Please make sure that you take this cap off before you pour any waste inside. Otherwise, the waste will coat the outside of the container and it will have to be treated as a chemical spill. Any solid waste should be placed inside one of the black metal buckets or the large designated waste beaker inside of the hood. Please check with your TA to see which type of solid waste container is available in your lab. Unless they are heavily contaminated, no gloves, pipettes, or paper towels should be thrown in the solid chemical waste. In any lab, all glass waste should be discarded in the cardboard broken glass boxes. This includes any broken glassware or any type of unbroken glass. It's very important that any glass waste does not make it into the regular trash. Likewise, the following items do not belong in the glass waste disposal: paper towels, gloves, or any non-glass items, including some of the plastic containers that may look like glass. Some items that you think may belong in the chemical waste actually do belong in the regular trash. These include disposable gloves, paper towels, Kim wipes, and plastic pipettes, even if there's the possibility that they contain a small amount of chemical residue. Please do not throw these items into the solid chemical waste containers. In general, you should never dispose of any chemicals down the sink or in the trash cans. At the end of a lab session, dispose of all chemical waste in the appropriate containers that was generated throughout the procedure. Then wash and dry all of your glassware and wipe down the bench top to help limit the amount of chemical contamination. Return any of the shared equipment to their storage bins at the front of the room, and always wash your hands after your lab session ends. This helps minimize the risk of chemical contamination later in the day through your own skin or eye contact, as well as through chemical ingestion. Finally, remove your lab coat and goggles after you've exited the lab and place them back in the appropriate places. Now, it's very important to discuss the difference between a chemical and a chemical-free zone. Chemical zones include most of the surfaces inside of the lab, including the bench tops, the fume hoods, the inside of the student drawers, and the laboratory floors. Chemical-free zones, on the other hand, include areas where PPE should not be required. Therefore, all door handles, both inside and outside of the lab, the wooden cubby areas, the computer areas inside of the lab, and all hallways, stairwells, restrooms, and even the ice machine outside of the hallway are considered to be chemical-free zones. Because of this, all students must remove their gloves before going outside of the lab. Additionally, lab coats should be removed if you're leaving that main hallway to go to the restroom. During these first few weeks, this is the most important point to remember when considering chemical versus chemical-free zones. Always remove your gloves before you go outside of the lab. We've even put signs on the doors for you before you leave. Please remember, never touch door handles or the ice machine in the hallway while you're wearing gloves. As a reminder, any unsafe behaviors will not be tolerated during the lab sessions, and the labs will be actively monitored throughout the semester for any unsafe behaviors that might arise. If you would like to refresh yourself on the safety guidelines, please discuss them with your TA and refer to the copy of the safety agreement that's posted on Canvas. This brings us to the end of Safety Module 2, Laboratory Safety. Please complete the 10 questions below to receive credit for this module.